Steven Seagal was once at the top of the action world. His name was synonymous with martial arts, powerful fight scenes, and undeniable strength. But as time passed, people started to question his ability to still perform at the highest level. They wrote him off, assuming his age would slow him down, leaving him behind in a world where new, younger faces dominated the scene. The world seemed ready to move on without him. But what they didn't know was that Seagal had no intention of bowing out quietly. He wasn't finished, not by a long shot. In fact, he was preparing for a comeback that would prove everyone wrong. As age took its toll on others, Seagal embraced it. He knew the key to lasting power wasn't just physical strength. It was the mental fortitude to keep pushing forward, to adapt, and to prove that age was merely a number. While the world doubted him, Seagal didn't slow down. He spent hours honing his skills, staying in peak physical condition, and mastering his craft. His focus wasn't on what others thought. It was on his own inner strength. It wasn't about the fame or the accolades anymore. It was about showing the world that he still had what it took to be great. The thing about Seagal that most people missed was his unwavering confidence in himself. He didn't need the approval of others to keep going. Unlike many who would have been discouraged by the doubts surrounding them, Seagal used it as fuel. He wasn't just training to regain his former glory, he was proving a point. And that point was this: that true strength comes from within, and the fire to be the best never truly fades. While the world was busy writing him off, Seagal was quietly preparing for his moment. The question wasn't whether he could come back. It was when he would reveal to everyone that he still had more than enough power, to remind them all of who he truly was. As the years passed, Steven Seagal found himself in a world that was rapidly changing. The action movie industry had evolved with new stars emerging, and younger, faster fighters taking over. The big-budget action movies that had once defined Seagal's career were now dominated by the likes of younger, more agile actors. He could feel the shift, but he also knew that the true essence of an action star was never just about physical agility or the latest trend. It was about something deeper, and that's where he had an edge. Seagal had been through it all. He had witnessed the rise and fall of many in the industry. He knew what it took to remain relevant. It wasn't the ability to do stunts or to jump between rooftops in high-octane chase scenes. It was the resilience to adapt, to outlast, and to prove that no matter the odds, you could still dominate. And that was exactly what Seagal intended to do. Despite the pressure to fade into the background, he remained true to his roots. He trained harder than ever before, focusing not just on martial arts, but also on his body and mind. Seagal's approach was never about flashy moves or trying to keep up with the trends. Instead, he focused on the fundamentals, the core of what made him a great martial artist in the first place. His strength wasn't just physical, it was mental. He had mastered the art of staying calm, composed, and focused no matter the situation. This mental fortitude would be his weapon in the comeback that no one saw coming. But Seagal didn't just want to prove the doubters wrong. He wanted to remind people that age doesn't define a fighter's spirit. His comeback wasn't just about a new movie role or a fight scene in a blockbuster film. It was about showing that true power comes from within, how determination and belief in yourself can push you beyond the limits that others place on you. Seagal wasn't going to let his age be a barrier to his success. He was setting the stage for a new era, one where experience and wisdom would outweigh the fleeting nature of youth. He knew the world was watching, waiting for him to fail. They expected him to be slow, weak, and out of touch with the modern world of action. But what they didn't realize was that Seagal had been quietly honing his skills. He was no longer interested in proving himself to Hollywood or the critics. He had already done that. His true goal now was to show the world that age wasn't a hindrance, it was an asset. Through years of training, discipline, and focus, Seagal had turned his age into a strength. And soon he would reveal just how much he still had to offer. And so, as he prepared for his next big moment, Seagal had a clear goal in mind. He wasn't just making a comeback. He was showing the world that his time had never passed. It was all about timing, and he knew that the moment was coming when he would step back into the spotlight and remind everyone what a true action legend looked like. The world was about to see a new side of Seagal, one that had been quietly cultivating strength and power for years. He wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. He had waited for the right moment to make his move, and when the time came, he would prove to everyone that it was never about age. It was always about the heart, the mind, and the drive to push beyond what anyone thought was possible. Seagal was ready. And this time, he wasn't going to let anyone count him out. What does true strength mean to you?
Let us know in the comments.
For years, Steven Seagal had faced criticism, dismissal, and doubt. As the world around him changed, so did the perception of his place within it. Yet, unlike many others who would have given up, Seagal refused to let the opinions of others define his path. He had always believed that strength wasn't just about what you could do physically. It was about how you could withstand the pressure, how much you could endure, and how deeply you were willing to dig within yourself to keep moving forward. When Seagal was younger, he had trained relentlessly to become a martial arts icon. But as the years went by, it wasn't just about martial arts anymore. It became about resilience. It became about learning to adapt, about using the challenges that life threw at him as fuel for the fire, rather than obstacles to his success. Seagal understood that the true test of strength wasn't how fast you could perform the moves, but how strong your mental game was, how steadfast you were in your resolve to continue despite everything telling you to stop. At this stage in his life, Seagal wasn't focused on regaining his popularity or winning the same accolades he had in his younger days. Instead, he focused on the one thing that had always set him apart, his mental toughness. In the world of martial arts and high-action movies, physical fitness is often the primary focus. But Seagal knew better than anyone that the mind could make or break a fighter. His strategy was simple: to keep pushing, to keep training, and to continue evolving as a person, not just as a fighter. His daily routine had become a mixture of intense physical training and mental conditioning. He spent hours on the mats, practicing his techniques, sharpening his movements, but he also dedicated significant time to meditation and reflection. Seagal understood that being in top physical form wasn't enough anymore. He needed to keep his mind sharp, his focus absolute. As a man who had already seen so much success, Seagal's desire for more wasn't about ego. It was about pushing the boundaries of what was possible, not just for him, but for anyone who doubted that age could be a barrier to greatness. The years of public scrutiny had only strengthened his resolve. Rather than bowing to the pressure, Seagal welcomed it, knowing that it would only make him better. Where others saw his age as a hindrance, he saw it as an advantage, a wealth of knowledge and experience that no young fighter, no matter how fast or agile, could ever replicate. Seagal had a depth of understanding of martial arts that came from years of training, competing, and learning from the best. He had absorbed the wisdom that came with time, and now he was ready to share that with the world once again. One of Seagal's most valuable lessons came from his early days in martial arts, a lesson that he carried with him throughout his entire career. It wasn't about speed, strength, or agility, it was about control. Martial arts is as much about precision and timing as it is about physical prowess. Seagal had mastered the art of control in both his movements and his mind. This control wasn't just about beating opponents in the ring or on set. It was about controlling the narrative, controlling the perception others had of him, and more importantly, it was about controlling himself. Over the years, as Seagal's career slowed down, many assumed he was no longer capable of pulling off the same feats he once did. But what they didn't see was his quiet evolution behind the scenes. Seagal had learned to control the physical limitations of his body and use them to his advantage. He wasn't trying to match the young, fast fighters of today. Instead, he was reimagining what it meant to be a fighter at his age, building his own path forward. His strength no longer came from raw physical power alone, it came from years of learning when to act and when to wait. He was no longer interested in fast, flashy moves. He was honing in on efficiency, on smart, controlled tactics that would allow him to thrive in his own way. In his private moments, when no one was watching, Seagal would reflect on how far he had come and how much further he could go. His career had never been about simply keeping up with the times. It had always been about defining his own path, creating his own legacy. And now, as the world counted him out, Seagal wasn't just preparing for a comeback. He was preparing for the next chapter in his story. He had the strength, the knowledge, and the wisdom to show the world that there was no expiration date on greatness. This shift in mindset was a game changer for Seagal. It wasn't about competing with the younger generation. It was about showing that experience and wisdom held just as much value, if not more. The age that had once been considered a setback had become his greatest asset. Seagal wasn't just going to make a comeback. He was going to redefine what it meant to be a fighter at any age. He knew that the world was watching closely, waiting for him to fall. But what they didn't realize was that Seagal had already won. His true strength wasn't in how fast he could move, or how many punches he could throw. It was in his unwavering belief in himself and his ability to adapt. So as the world doubted him, Seagal embraced it. He saw every doubt as a challenge, every criticism as a stepping stone. The stronger the doubts, the stronger he became. And when the time came for him to show the world that he wasn't finished, he would do so with the quiet confidence of a man who had already won the battle before it had even begun. The moment had finally arrived. After years of silence, years of hard training, Steven Seagal was about to show the world that age hadn't slowed him down, not even a little. His critics, those who had written him off as a relic of the past, were about to witness the greatest revelation of his career. Seagal had prepared for this day for a long time, but he wasn't just preparing for a physical confrontation. No, this was far bigger than that. He wasn't just stepping into the ring or onto a movie, set to prove that he still had what it took to be an action hero. He was stepping into the spotlight once again to prove to everyone that true strength, power, and greatness weren't bound by age. It wasn't about keeping up with the latest trends or competing against the younger generation. It was about showing the world that experience and mental fortitude were just as important, if not more, than physical agility. The first time Seagal appeared on screen after his long break, people were stunned. He walked into the scene with the same presence he had commanded in his prime, but this time, there was something different about him. There was a calm confidence in his movements, a sense of quiet power that commanded attention, even in his older age. Seagal wasn't just relying on his old moves, he had evolved. Every step he took was deliberate, every strike was measured, and his focus was sharper than ever before. The critics, who had assumed he was washed up, started to realize that Seagal was more than just a man who had once been an action star. He was a force of nature. His movements were slower, yes, but they were no less effective. Each motion was purposeful, and there was an undeniable strength in his presence. It wasn't about speed or flashy moves anymore. It was about efficiency, control, and precision. As Seagal made his way through the intense fight scenes, it was clear to anyone watching that his comeback wasn't just for show. It was a testament to his resilience, his dedication, and his belief that he still had something to prove. His age had not diminished him. It had refined him. He had taken everything he had learned over the years, on and off the screen, and turned it into an even stronger version of himself. His critics had assumed that the best years of Seagal's career were behind him. They thought he was out of touch with modern action and martial arts. But Seagal had known something they didn't. He knew that while the world around him changed, the core principles of martial arts, the discipline, the focus, the understanding of human nature, remained the same. And that was his advantage. Seagal wasn't trying to keep up with the younger, faster fighters. He was using his own experiences, his own wisdom, to carve a new path forward. And it was this path that would define his comeback. What made his comeback so shocking wasn't just the fact that Seagal had stepped back into the action genre. It was how seamlessly he did it. The ease with which he moved, the strength with which he struck, and the way he outsmarted his opponents proved that he was still a force to be reckoned with. The critics who had doubted him were forced to admit that they had made a huge mistake. Seagal wasn't just a relic of the past. He was living proof that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes, the greatest power is the power of experience. It wasn't just the fight scenes that took everyone by surprise, either. Seagal's performance in his return to the screen showed a deeper level of acting skill than people had given him credit for. As time had passed, Seagal had grown not just as a fighter but as a man. His ability to portray complex emotions, to show vulnerability and strength in the same breath, was something that only years of experience could bring. His return wasn't just a physical comeback. It was a reminder that acting, like martial arts, is about mastery of the craft. The world watched in awe as Seagal's comeback took shape. The movie industry, critics, and fans all witnessed a performance that defied expectations. Where many thought he would falter, Seagal thrived. He wasn't just back, he was better than ever. His presence on screen was stronger, his moves more precise, and his ability to draw the audience in even greater than before. He had proven that age wasn't a limitation, it was an asset. The comeback wasn't just about proving something to the world, it was about proving something to himself. Seagal had spent years training in silence, working behind the scenes, and refining his skills. And now, as he stood in the spotlight once again, he realized that his journey wasn't just about fighting opponents. It was about fighting the doubts that had been planted in his own mind. He had spent years questioning whether he could come back, whether he could still perform at the highest level. But with each punch, each movement, he knew he had already won. In the end, Seagal's comeback was a victory not just for him, but for everyone who had ever been told they were too old, too slow, or too far behind. It was a testament to the power of perseverance, resilience, and the belief that age should never be used as a reason to give up on your dreams. Seagal had shown the world that the best was yet to come, and that when you have the heart of a warrior, nothing, not age, not doubt, and not time, can stop you from achieving greatness. As Seagal's comeback continued to unfold, the world began to take notice. His return wasn't just about proving his critics wrong. It was about showcasing the power of resilience, the strength of experience, and the idea that age is never an obstacle, unless you allow it to be. People who had once dismissed him as washed up were now watching in awe, as he demonstrated that true strength comes not from physical ability alone, but from the wisdom and mental toughness accumulated over time. Seagal's rise to prominence wasn't overnight. He had spent decades building his career, honing his skills, and learning from his mistakes. While younger actors and fighters may have had the advantage of speed and agility, Seagal had the upper hand when it came to control, focus, and strategy. He had learned over the years that the body might age, but the mind grows sharper. And this was his greatest weapon. His physical training had never stopped, but his approach had evolved. Rather than focusing purely on explosive power, Seagal honed in on the more subtle aspects of martial arts, the timing, the technique, and the flow. He had come to understand that the way you fight, and the way you handle yourself in the face of adversity, matters more than sheer strength. Seagal was a master of controlling the flow of the fight, not just throwing punches but thinking several steps ahead, anticipating the next move, and using the environment to his advantage. But it wasn't just about fighting. It was about showing others that they, too, could overcome whatever limitations they placed on themselves. Seagal's comeback wasn't just an individual triumph. It was a message to the world that no matter where you are in life, you can always rise again. Age is not a reason to give up, and time does not diminish the value of experience. What truly defines greatness is the willingness to evolve and the courage to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles in your path. As Seagal continued to prove his critics wrong, the focus started to shift from his physical prowess to his mentality. People began to recognize that the wisdom he had accumulated over his career was just as powerful as his ability to fight. His approach to life and combat had matured, and it showed in every aspect of his being. The grace and composure he displayed both on and off the screen revealed a level of depth that many had failed to see before. Seagal was no longer just a martial artist or an action star. He was a symbol of perseverance and strength, someone who had learned to adapt and overcome. The industry took note of this new Seagal, the man who had transcended the physical limitations of age and embraced the mental and emotional challenges of getting older. His success was no longer about competing with younger stars or trying to outdo himself in every fight scene. Instead, it was about embracing the journey, the process, and the lessons that came with age. Seagal had become a mentor in his own right, a figure whose story was both inspiring and humbling. But while the world began to appreciate the depth of Seagal's comeback, not everyone was convinced. There were still skeptics, critics who claimed that Seagal's return was a fluke, that his physical condition couldn't last, that the world was simply being nostalgic for a time gone by. Seagal was aware of these voices, but he wasn't interested in proving himself to them. His goal wasn't to win over every critic. It was to show himself that he was still capable, that he still had the drive and determination to keep going. And as long as he could do that, he knew that his comeback had already succeeded. The true power of Seagal's comeback wasn't in his ability to fight. It was in his ability to rise above the negativity, the doubt, and the pressure. It was in his unwavering belief in himself and his refusal to accept the limitations others tried to place on him. As he continued to fight and train, it became clear that Seagal was not only defying expectations, he was rewriting the narrative of what it means to grow older, to fight, and to remain relevant in a world that constantly looks for the next big thing. As the years went by, Seagal's influence only grew. His comeback had inspired a new generation of martial artists, actors, and individuals to embrace their own potential, no matter their age. Seagal had shown the world that greatness isn't limited to youth. It's about the mental strength to persevere, the resilience to adapt, and the confidence to keep pushing forward. His message resonated deeply with people from all walks of life, those who had been told they were too old, too slow, or too far behind. Seagal's story gave them hope that it was never too late to chase your dreams, to take control of your life, and to prove to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that you still have the power to succeed. Now, as Seagal's legacy continued to unfold, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that he had not only made a comeback, he had redefined what it means to fight, to live, and to keep going when the world tells you to stop. Do you believe that age should ever stop someone from chasing their dreams? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Seagal's return wasn't just a victory for him, it was a message to the world. It was a reminder that age doesn't define you, and that the greatest moments in life often come when we are least expected to succeed. His comeback wasn't about proving something to others, it was about proving something to himself. Seagal had spent years training in silence, refining his craft, and learning more than he ever had before. His critics had expected him to fall short, to show signs of aging, to be a shadow of his former self. But Seagal did more than just prove them wrong. He reshaped the narrative entirely. His influence spread beyond the martial arts world. His story of perseverance and determination became a symbol for anyone who had ever been counted out, or told they were too old, too slow, or too far behind to succeed. Seagal's return sent a powerful message that resonated with people from all walks of life. It's never too late to pursue your dreams, and no one has the right to tell you when your time is up. Seagal had always believed in the power of self-discipline. He had learned from a young age that mastery wasn't about quick fixes or shortcuts. It was about consistently putting in the work, no matter how difficult the journey. While others might have retired, settled down, or given in to the limitations they had imposed on themselves, Seagal kept pushing forward. His return was a testament to the fact that, with enough dedication, we can overcome the obstacles that life throws our way. But the true magic of Seagal's comeback was not just in his physical return to the screen. It was in the way he inspired others to break free from their own limitations. People began to see that Seagal's age wasn't a hindrance to his success, it was his greatest asset. Over the years, he had accumulated a wealth of knowledge, experience, and skill that no amount of youthful energy could ever replace. In fact, as Seagal's story unfolded, it became clear that it was not just his fighting abilities that made him great. It was his unwavering confidence, his refusal to be held back by age, and his mental fortitude that allowed him to succeed when others thought he would fail. As Seagal continued to prove his doubters wrong, people from all over the world looked up to him as a living example of the power of persistence. He wasn't just a fighter in the ring, he was a fighter in life. Seagal's story became a source of inspiration for those facing their own battles, whether they were dealing with age-related challenges or trying to overcome personal obstacles. He showed them that there was no such thing as a right age to start, and that we all have the potential to succeed, regardless of how many years we've lived or how much time we feel we've lost. His comeback also reminded people of the importance of reinvention. In the world of entertainment and action movies, careers can be fleeting, and staying relevant often means keeping up with trends. Seagal had no interest in chasing the latest trends or competing with younger actors. Instead, he focused on embracing his unique skills, his wisdom, and the experience he had gained over the years. By doing so, he carved a path that was uniquely his own, a path that no one else could follow. Seagal's return also sparked a conversation about aging and its effects on physical ability. In a world that often prioritizes youth and physical appearance, Seagal proved that age didn't have to be seen as a disadvantage. Rather than accepting society's view that aging equals decline, he challenged it head-on. He not only continued to perform on screen, but did so with a level of depth and understanding that younger actors couldn't replicate. His experience gave him an edge that no amount of youthful energy could ever replace. As Seagal's impact grew, so did his legacy. His comeback became a touchstone for those who had been written off, those who had been told that their time was over, that they didn't belong anymore. Seagal's story showed them that it was never too late to reinvent themselves, to pursue their passions, and to show the world that they still had something valuable to offer. One of the most significant aspects of Seagal's journey was his ability to stay true to himself. He never tried to conform to what others expected of him. He didn't try to compete with the younger stars in Hollywood or mimic the latest action trends. Instead, he embraced who he was and used his years of experience to create something new. His authenticity shone through in every scene, in every moment. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He just needed to prove to himself that his spirit was as strong as ever. By the time Seagal's comeback reached its peak, it was clear that he had done more than just defy the odds. He had rewritten the script on aging, perseverance, and the power of self-belief. He had shown the world that with enough dedication and passion, anything was possible. He had shown that we don't have to let age or doubt dictate our future. It's not about how many years we've lived. It's about what we do with the time we have left. As Seagal's story continues to inspire new generations, it's important to remember that his comeback wasn't just about returning to the screen. It was about something far more profound. It was about embracing the idea that no matter how old you are, no matter how many challenges you've faced, there is always room for growth, always room for reinvention, and always a chance to prove that you're capable of greatness. Seagal had proven that no matter how much time had passed, he was far from done. In fact, he was just getting started, and the world now more than ever was watching, inspired by the man who had once been counted out, but was now proving that his time had only just begun. Engagement question. What's one challenge you've faced that you overcame with persistence? Share your experience with us in the comments below. As the years passed and Seagal's comeback story became widely recognized, it was clear that his impact reached far beyond the world of martial arts and action movies. He had defied not just expectations, but also the limitations that society often imposes based on age. Through his journey, Seagal had shown everyone that it was not the years you've lived that matter most, it's what you do with them. Seagal's story became a symbol of resilience, of the power of mental fortitude, and the importance of perseverance. It was no longer just about fighting in movies. It was about showing the world that we can all fight through the challenges we face, no matter our age or circumstances. His return to the screen was a victory, but his legacy was built on much more than the action scenes or fight choreography. It was built on his ability to keep going when others thought he couldn't. It was built on his ability to reinvent himself and push past every barrier. People who had once dismissed him began to realize the mistake they had made. Age had never been Seagal's enemy, it was merely a number. His mental strength and unyielding determination were his true weapons. And as he continued to perform, people started to understand that his strength had only grown over the years. His dedication to his craft, to mastering both the physical and mental aspects of his art, was something younger fighters could only aspire to. The real lesson that Seagal's story taught was not just about proving others wrong, it was about self-belief. Seagal didn't need to prove anything to the world. He already knew what he was capable of. What mattered most was that he refused to be boxed into a corner by age or by the opinions of others. He embraced his years of experience, and instead of fading away into obscurity, he used them as the foundation for a new chapter in his career. Seagal's story serves as a reminder that no one can limit your potential except for you. The only thing that truly stands in the way of your success is the belief that you are too old, too tired, or too far behind to continue moving forward. Seagal's journey also underscored the importance of mental growth. Martial arts, in its purest form, is not just about physical strength or how quickly you can throw a punch. It's about discipline, focus, and control. And Seagal had mastered those elements over the course of his long career. What's truly remarkable is that, as his physical abilities may have slowed, his mind had only sharpened. This mental clarity, combined with his experience, gave him a unique edge. He wasn't relying on the same quick moves from his youth. Instead, he was using strategy, patience, and precision to showcase his power. His body had matured, but his understanding of the art had deepened. By the time Seagal's story came full circle, it wasn't just his physical comeback that mattered. It was the way he redefined what it meant to age, to grow, and to overcome the limitations people placed on him. He showed us that growing older doesn't mean losing relevance. It means gaining wisdom, gaining control, and gaining perspective. Seagal's career proved that success isn't just about being at your physical peak. It's about adapting to who you are in the present and using that self-awareness to continue growing. Seagal's return also encouraged us all to break free from the constraints of society's expectations. In a world that often values youth and speed, Seagal's journey taught us the power of experience and perseverance. He showed us that we can still evolve, still achieve great things, and still inspire others, no matter what stage of life we're in. He proved that the most important thing is not how fast we can move, but how far we can go and how much we can push ourselves to achieve our goals. So, what's the takeaway from Seagal's story? It's simple. No matter where you are in life, it's never too late to chase your dreams. It's never too late to fight for what you believe in, to reinvent yourself, and to push past your limitations. Seagal's comeback wasn't just about proving to the world that he was still relevant. It was about proving to himself that, no matter how old he got, he could still make an impact, still inspire others, and still show the world that greatness has no expiration date. If you take one thing away from Seagal's story, let it be this: age is just a number. It's the passion, dedication, and resilience you put into your work that truly defines you. Seagal may have faced countless obstacles along the way, but in the end, he didn't just survive, he thrived. And that's something we can all aspire to. So, no matter where you are in life, remember that your journey is far from over. Keep pushing, keep striving, and remember, there's no limit to what you can achieve, as long as you never stop believing in yourself. Engagement question: what's one thing you've always wanted to achieve, but thought you were too old for? Share your goals with us in the comments below.